Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be sharing my personal experience of Saturn transiting through my seventh house. So really quick, Saturn is the planet of time, discipline, and hard work. I do have a video on Saturn. You can search in my videos if you want to learn a little bit more about Saturn. But basically, Saturn wants effort. He's not going to give us any reward without that effort. Sometimes he will cause restriction and delay. There are no shortcuts with Saturn. And without growth, there is no reward or manifestation, I should say. Saturn can gift us once he leaves, so that is really exciting that, when we put the hard work in, we will get the benefit or the gift in the end. Saturn will stay in each sign for approximately 2.5 years. So during this time, we can accomplish a lot in a specific area, depending on the house, of course. But we can also feel perhaps more drained, constrained, limited, restricted, and perhaps even blocked. Saturn wants longevity and permanence. So if our foundations are weak, or if we've been going about it the wrong way, Saturn's going to show these weaknesses in the foundation so that we can correct them. The seventh house is all about relationships. So a lot of times when we look at this house, we're looking at our partnerships or romantic relationships, our marriage, or any contractual relationship. So this also includes business contracts, business relationships, and any one-to-one relationships. So, clients too. It also covers legal contracts and negotiations. So many people actually marry when Saturn's in the seventh house. I have seen that. I think my sister-in-law actually got married with Saturn in her seventh house, and I've heard of many others. But also some people, especially if they're in the wrong relationship or a relationship that's not serving them anymore, that's when they realize that this isn't the right relationship and they get out of it, so they'll end it. Or the relationship is just tested in some way, whatever that means. So they do say that if you can get through Saturn in your seventh house as a couple, that your relationship will stand the test of time. I mean, of course, I don't know how true that is, but it's kind of nice to know, or nice to think at least. So in Placidus, Saturn was in my seventh house from February 27th, 2022, and continues to transit through there and won't leave until the April 11th, 2024. But in whole signs, we just look at, the signs that Saturn transited. And so Saturn entered Aquarius, which is my seventh house, March 27th, 2020. And Saturn left Aquarius, meaning Saturn left my seventh house, March 7th, 2023. So really recently. So I'm going to speak on behalf of this time frame and from a whole signs perspective, just for anyone who might be confused by that. So thinking back to March 2020, we all know that's when COVID lockdowns began. I didn't really notice anything in terms of my seventh house, marriage, friendships, partnerships, anything like that at this point. As many who follow my channel and listen to all my videos know, I did have some challenging health stuff that started late 2020 and then really amped up through 2021 and 2022. And from my experience, this is how my marriage was tested, because I just wasn't doing well. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't look well. I had a lot of dietary needs. I had a lot of medical, supplement costs. And my partner never once complained, pressured me to leave the house, or when I didn't want to do anything. I mean, his life got really impacted too, because of course we couldn't travel because of COVID and stuff, but when things started opening up, like I didn't want to. I wasn't able. I wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel well enough. I didn't feel energetic enough. Whatever it was. And so his life kind of took a backseat too. I mean, he would go on trips with his friends and stuff, but he never made me feel guilty about it. He never pressured me. He never told me to get over it. He just supported me, boosted my spirits. Like I would be in tears because I just never felt like I would get out of this. And he just always kept saying things will get better, and just loved me. just loved me unconditionally through this time. So, additionally, not to share too much information, of course, when you're not doing very well, you don't really want to be as intimate. And so that kind of wasn't happening as often either. And again, you know, never really tested me in that area or pushed me or made me feel guilty about that. So overall in my marriage, it was tested because of that, right? I had like concerns like, oh my gosh, like how long is my husband going to be able to manage with me not being my normal self? And like, I mean, he was having to pick up more slack in terms of cooking and groceries and I mean, you name it. And how long would he be able to handle this, And he had no problems handling it. So it actually strengthened my marriage, and it actually made me like I tell people it's like I fell in love with my husband all over again during Saturn the 7th, because I realized that like when someone loves you unconditionally, like it's just such a beautiful thing to see. And I know this about my husband. I know he's great, but this situation tested us and showed me, oh my gosh, like I really picked a good guy. And it helped us grow stronger together, actually. So that's another thing Saturn can do, right? So Saturn's testing my foundation of my marriage, and it didn't budge. Like it did not budge. My marriage is what I mean. So I will also say, I have to add this in, that I did have Jupiter transiting in my 7th. Jupiter transits each sign for about a year. So I had Jupiter for about a year while Saturn was in my 7th. So that, of course, helped this transit be a bit easier for me. Additionally, I don't have any natal planets in my 7th house. So when we have a transiting planet going through a house where there are already natal planets, they make aspects. And so there can be more action, or just they're more notable when we have natal planets. I do recall maybe early, I'm kind of backtracking now. I do recall pretty early into the transit, like, March 2020, maybe all the way up until summer. My husband and I, we were just bickering more. And this was before my health stuff really started kicking off. So I was doing fine at this point. But we were just bickering a little bit more. You know how couples do. They just you just forget to say your please and thank yous, and you sometimes are condescending or passive aggressive, or you just, we all have, the tendency to sometimes do that in our relationships with those closest to us. And so we were just like not communicating clearly, and just not treating each other as kindly as, we used to. And so we did have a few counseling sessions. Not very many. I mean, maybe 4 to 6. I can't remember. And we don't have those issues anymore, like at all. The counseling was really helpful, and we just both decided, like, wow, we gotta get back on the track here. Like, we can't be talking to each other like this, or this is gonna ruin our marriage. And so we changed. And so, that was the only thing I can think that might have been, more trying. And interestingly, during that time we were bickering, I had Mars transiting through my 7th at the same time. So I think that's kind of interesting. In the spring of 2021, I signed a contract for a large company and began working as a therapist. So, this, of course, was a new legal agreement. And now I had one-to-one clients. I was learning what ages I like to work with, and, what kind of, specialties I wanted to do. Then in spring of 2022, I left this company due to, just really poor ethics. And I had the opportunity to open up my own private practice. So I did post a video on the North Node transiting my 10th house, because this is where I share this story if anyone's interested. But so then I signed a new contract with a company, but now it wasn't a company I was working for. It was we were now in a partnership, as they basically help therapists manage their private practice. So I signed a contract with them, and I pay them, and they help me. They do a little bit of marketing, they do scheduling, they do billing, they help me do all my credentialing, all that messy stuff no one wants to do. I did get more serious about friendships, because I finished grad school in mid 2020, and then I'd just been so focused on school, like I just only had school friends. I didn't really have any like friends in my community. And so I really wanted that. And so I joined an app and I made a few friends, but one person in particular and I really clicked. I mean, to be honest, if we still lived in that state, I'd probably still be friends with everyone. But despite me moving, me and her have still stayed in touch, and we really hit it off and we really connected. And she's still a very dear friend to me. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we will be lifelong friends because we met when Saturn was in the seventh. You know, who knows? That would be nice. So, in my opinion, Saturn helped me get very serious about my one-to-one relationships with clients in particular, um, because now I'm out in the field. I'm working as a therapist now. I have my own private practice, um, and it showed me the strength of my marriage. I already knew my marriage was strong, but from my personal experience and just, I mean, I'm sure many of you who are listening have either been here or know someone who's been here. When someone in a close partnership marriage has a health issue, it really tests the relationship. And I am just so pleased to say I am no longer with those health issues. I am out of that, and I am happier than ever in my marriage. So Saturn through the seventh was a really nice experience for me personally. I wanted to share another little quick story here because my mother is a Leo sun, and we don't know her rising sign, but we do know she's a Leo sun. And the way Saturn has been challenging her in her seventh house partnership area is that her husband is quite a bit older than her, and he's been aging and declining, and that's been really, really difficult for her. When this transit began in 2020, he was already slowly declining, but this is when it started to get heavy for her. And I remember I still spend a lot of time talking to her every week, just, giving her support and reminding her of, how to look after herself and self-care and all that. Because it's just really heavy for her. One, because the person she married is no longer there, really. And she has to caretake, and she still works, and she is thriving in so many other areas of life, and so she just feels pulled in so many directions. And I think she also had some other stuff with him because he was a little resistant to anything, right? Looking after himself, accepting that he's aging, and so that makes it a bit more difficult too. And then most recently he did get a diagnosis of dementia, so that was challenging for her, but also kind of like expected, and just like, okay, now we know what's going on. And now, because of the diagnosis, she has a care team, she has a geriatric case manager, and so she has more support now. And of course she has family and stuff, so that's how it worked for her. So it definitely depends on your age, how Saturn will show up for you. But I know many people get scared when Saturn's transiting through their seventh. But if you're single, this could actually be a wonderful time, because this could be when you meet someone. You're definitely going to be more serious about relationships. So that's really exciting. And if you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean your relationship's doomed. It actually can strengthen it. So I hope that removes some people's fears about Saturn. I know that a majority of my Saturn transits have been really great. They've leveled me up and helped me build really great foundations. Okay, so that is all I have. Please feel free to share your own personal stories of Saturn in the seventh house, and stay tuned for some more videos.